Hello, I'm Phil Downs and I have a vision. I want to make the world a more accessible place, starting with my hometown of Didsbury.
Hi there. As a filmmaker and a publicist, I always make sure I go the extra mile to promote the films that I produce, especially when working with a friend, as I have been in this case with my good friend Phil Downs and the making of his film about Future Didsbury. And when that film strikes a chord, as this one has done, it's an honour and a privilege to be promoting the campaign itself and not just the making of the film. And then there's the organisations who want to be seen to be supporting the campaign. I'm talking about the Didsbury Civic Society, who are right behind this project, a project made possible by the collaboration of the Manchester School of Architecture. And then there's the Old Parsonage at Didsbury, where we filmed Phil's links for the campaign film, and this upcoming interview where I talk in more detail with Phil about the Future Didsbury Project. Phil Downs, you've dedicated your life to making stadiums and big events accessible to all. Tell us about Future Didsbury.
Well, Future Didsbury is very different from what I ordinarily do. It's where I live, Didsbury, which is South Manchester. And going into the village where I live has always been a major issue because I simply don't go very often because the pavements are dangerous. Some shops I can't get into, restaurants I can't get into, cafes I can't get into. And I decided when I started my own business that the best thing to do was to try and do something about it.
And when we talk about making Didsbury accessible to all, it really is all people, isn't it? Because it's not just disabled people that find some of these obstacles in life.
Absolutely. The thing about accessibility is when you get it right, it works for everyone. So what we want to do with this project, with the help of the students from the School of Architecture, is to look at all the different features we can use to make movement within the village really fluid. And that's going to be good for traders because more people will be able to get into the shops, and other businesses around the village which are now empty units could be hired out again to businesses that could actually see the function of Didsbury back to what it used to be.
And with so many changes in the world, I'm thinking about things like electric cars coming up. It's a good time to be thinking about almost like having a blank canvas and starting again. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be fantastic. Electric cars are a big issue, and to a large degree, they'll be helpful in lowering down pollution or lowering pollution, etc. Another issue with it, though, is that it's more or less going to solve its own problem. We need to be looking at other aspects of life in our village that do need more attention. The electric vehicle scenario is going to be one of providing enough charging points and how people are going to be charged for using them, etc., etc. The infrastructure that needs to go in is massive. And what we're saying about the infrastructure is, if you are going to start changing the shape of the village because you're going to put cables in to charge cars, one of the things we could do is look at other aspects of improvements that could be provided in the process of doing that.
I know one of your big subjects is pavements and curbs, and I think when we designed roads in the first place, obviously there was lots of different modes of transport, and the thing is, why do we really need a pavement? Why do we need a curb?
We don't need a curb, and the original reason for having a curb there was so that people didn't wander off into where the horses had been, as horse deposits lay all over the road. Nowadays, there is a concept name, shared spaces, which is more or less what we're modelling Future Didsbury on. In the process, we will use a full width of the road that goes through the centre of the village, without any demarcation lines between the pavement and the road. So altogether, we're going to provide a better, more friendly environment, which but allow people to use the streets more freely. We'll slow down the traffic and probably try and make an arrangement for some weekends to be traffic free to begin with, and see how those kind of changes work. Because at the moment there's some things we don't know very much about unless we start looking into it, which this work with the students has been all about.
Cost is obviously a big factor, and changing something which already exists is a big challenge.
There's no doubt it's going to be expensive, but when you're in a situation where you've got to make changes anyway, it's a good time to invest. And this is why we're trying to persuade the council in Manchester to take a look at this project as a serious investment opportunity. Because if they use what I call the whack-a-mole mentality of looking at the way different repairs are needed, to the roads, for example, more recently, that most people have experienced and continue to experience. So, moving forward, having a cohesive plan of what we intend to do to improve access to the village is virtually handed to the council, with 24 architects, or 24 people who will be architects in a couple of years' time. They provided a massive amount of work to them and probably saved them an absolute fortune in the process. So why let it go to waste?
I think when a lot of people hear the phrase accessible to all, they probably think in the first instance about disabled people, but when they actually look at this and realise that it really does benefit all people, it kind of becomes a no-brainer really to look at how to make everything better.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case that it's a no-brainer. The problems with high streets in general have already been recognised by government because of the huge amount of money that they say they're committing to town centres. They know there's a problem on the high street. We can see what the problem's turning into now because of COVID, which has made it a bigger issue altogether. But that's not all bad in the context of more people understanding the kind of issues that traders actually have now and what's going to help them get through something like this.
Looking at the proposals that the students have come up with from the architect's point of view, it is quite exciting to see the possibilities.
It's absolutely blown me away, and a lot of other people. The volume of work that they did in such a short space of time was just unbelievable. And to take all these boards to a venue like Central Library in Manchester, where it's a great space anyway, tailor-made for an exhibition like this. The people that came to view on the day were gradually walking around and drinking the whole thing in. It wasn't really a question with anyone I saw whizzing round and disappearing out the door again. They stayed there, they studied everything. And that was the same at the Emmanuel Church, and then the same at the old parsonage.
And what's even more exciting, I think, is the realisation that these solutions could be rolled out universally.
To provide a template with this as the genesis of the whole thing would be brilliant for Future Didsbury to achieve that level of success. Realistically, it might take much more than that. But if you take the opinion that you've got to start somewhere, there's been a fantastic start provided for the City Council, and if I was a councillor, I'd want to grab it with both hands and take it to the next stage.
You've already had some great achievements in your life. You've spent 26 years at Manchester United, you've got the MBE from the Queen. This could be your greatest achievement yet.
Well, it could be. I really want it to be, and so do many others. It's not just me that wants this kind of thing in Didsbury, and I bet it's not just an individual that'll carry it forward in other towns. Everybody wants to see improvements. They think that things are getting a bit dilapidated without anybody really taking much notice. They can see money being spent on other things, but for the 40 years I've lived here, I've never seen any investment in this village at all. So we think, to a degree, the way this Future Didsbury Project presents itself, it does have a price tag to it, but it could well be worthwhile spending a degree of money on getting something right so you can pick it up and drop it wherever else it's needed. It's being dealt with by the students as a phase project. So some phases will be relevant here, some not so relevant here, and in other places it will be the same. Use the bits of the jigsaw that you need the most and hopefully improve quite a lot in the process.
So in conclusion, if Future Didsbury becomes a template that's rolled out in other towns and cities, what would that mean to you?
A dream come true, really. There's nothing more than that. I've always wanted to have an easier route from A to B for anybody by providing access on the basis of someone having a disability. Because if you look at an airport, which is an ideal environment of what's useful for people who use wheelchairs, it's also useful for people carrying baggage everywhere, usually on wheels these days. So that kind of environment is what we want to achieve, a stepless environment as far as possible.
That's brilliant. Good luck.
Thank you.